Voporak. We're running low on masks of time. Would you please go to the Vahi store to get more?
No can do, boss. Just checked. They're running low.
Oh, are they? So you're saying that they're...
Hello everyone, and welcome to another Remixed review. Today we're taking a look at every combo and alternate model released for the year of 2005 for the BIONICLE theme. As usual, this will all be per my personal opinion and experience with these models, and additionally, before we continue, in case this video gets copied, make sure to head on over to the TTV message boards at board.ttvchannel.com so you can join in the conversation about anything on this channel or anything about LEGO. With all that out of the way, let's get started. A lot of ground to cover, so let's start off with the small stuff. Starting with these three Rahaga, let's remix! So this is what's called an ice vermin, and this is disgusting. Gosh dang it, this is hideous. I don't like basically anything about this. Vermin is a very apt title for this, because there isn't anything enjoyable. I think the first half of the build is actually kind of interesting. I like how those feet are used for that first part of the torso, and then everything going back is just garbage, in my opinion, of course. They're just axles that are sticking out like crazy. It looks unfinished. It looks amateurish. It doesn't look like a clean model that I'd expect from LEGO, which, granted, a lot of combo models are like that, but this is definitely on the lower end of most combo models. I would definitely say it's one of my least favorites. Possibly within my top 3. It doesn't have a whole lot of functions, just the Hordika spinner function, not a surprise, and the articulation is fine, so you can get it in some dynamic poses, but I don't know why you'd bother. I wouldn't recommend building this, so maybe don't. And as far as canonicity is concerned, yeah, it's canon. Moving on to the other 3 Rahaga, we're gonna go ahead and take these guys and remix! So this is called a colony drone. And this one I definitely like a lot more. It's bipedal, so it's standing on 2 legs, it's got the 2 arms, and it's got the blades and whatnot. I like the color scheme a lot better, and I like the build. It's a very interesting build, it's fairly solid. You do have some waist articulation, which I find very interesting. And additionally, as far as functions are concerned, you do have the Hordika spinner on top. But it can kind of move. You can kind of put it in different positions, which I think is very interesting. Something else, per the instructions, you can put the 2 spinner, the 2 ripcords on the back of it. However, in most CGI material, it doesn't have those, so it's totally optional, but it's a cool way to integrate them into the build. Overall, yeah, I like this one. Not offensive to me at all, so I certainly wouldn't not recommend it. As far as canonicity is concerned, it's canon. Alright, moving on to the Toa Hordika, and we're going to start off with the 2 Hordika models first. Starting with these 2. Let's remix! So this is what's called a cable crawler. And this is... I really liked it more in promotional material, because I didn't know how it actually was. The build itself is awkward. I don't think the torso is too terrible, it's just everything else. As far as the arms are concerned, you have one which has your function, however it's cumbersome. It doesn't really hold itself up, so you can get the function to work just fine with the 2 weapons, which I guess can hold cables. However, it's going to sag down because there isn't any friction there. So as soon as you get it to go up a little bit, it's just going to flop and it looks like his arm is almost bending too much in the opposite direction. I don't like it. And the other arm, he doesn't have it. It's just a stump. It's just a piece that was shoved on there, and I don't really know why. It just exists. As far as the legs are concerned, the way they're attached is cumbersome. It's awkward. So you're not going to get a whole lot of great poses out of this guy. Additionally, the head is only going to be able to look forward to a certain degree, so it doesn't exactly look that forward-facing. It's just looking down at the dirt. Overall, I'm really not a fan of this model. It's just awkward. That's really the best way I can put it. As far as canonicity is concerned, however, it's canon. Next up, we're gonna take these two Toa, and let's remix! Now I know what you're all thinking. Wow, so this is a sea spider. Doesn't look exactly how I remember it though. Well, that's because I built it exactly how the instructions want it to be built. You see, something that I ran into just so many times throughout working on this specific review were just a slew of errors and errors and errors throughout the instructions. So this, fun fact, is built wrong if you build it per the instructions. So, give me just a moment. Ta-da! This is the sea spider, and this is how it is properly built. Before, the eyes were on the back legs, and its torso was completely flipped upside down. I don't know how these things happen. That seems like a fairly egregious error. However, this is what it's supposed to look like. As far as my thoughts are concerned on it, it's fine. It is a Bionicle spider. It looks perfectly serviceable. I like the color scheme. Blue and white is very difficult to mess up. I like this back end using the weapons. And of course, for functions, you do have the Rotuka spinner on top. So yeah, it's a perfectly fine serviceable spider. Just remember, the instructions will have you build it wrong. So just keep that in mind if you do choose to build it. But yeah, I like it. No major complaints. And as far as canonicity, it is canon. Alright, let's go ahead and get down to the last of the two Toa builds. See what I did there? Two Toa? It's foreshadowing. Okay, let's remix! So this is definitely my favorite of the two Toa builds, and I swear to you it's not because Matau's involved. This is called a Rock Raptor. Now, things I really like about it will definitely be the legs. I think that this is a really cool use for the arm pieces. I think that's neat to see how this is utilized. I also like two of the arms. I like the one with the ripcord, which we're seeing more ripcord integration, though you're not going to be able to use this one to kind of reach all the way to the back, put the ripcord into the Rotuka launcher, and then pull it out while still having it connected to the arm. It's just not happening. And the other arm is cool too. You have both of Anawa's weapons, and it's fine. Totally cool. This is another one where the instructions had an error. If you followed the instructions on how to attach the neck to the torso, you're just going to put it above where it needs to connect. There's no connection there. Overall, it's kind of cool. I'm not super big on this color scheme. I've said this before. It's passable, but it's not one of my favorites. But again, it's got a cool stature. It's got a cool silhouette. I really like how that looks. The blades, I don't know why they're these odd angles and just not matching each other, but it is what it is. I like it. It's kind of cool. And as far as canonicity is concerned, you're going to hear this a lot throughout this video. It's canon. Moving on, we're going to get to the three Toa combinations now. Starting off with these three. And let's remix! So this is called a Protocairn. And this, I actually really like it. Not going to lie. It's kind of this dinosaur, raptor, T-Rex thing, almost dragon-esque in a way. I really like this tail. The tail is super cool. I like how it's built with kind of like this plating using the Hordika torso armor pieces, and it caps out at the tail, which of course has a function in and of itself. Legs, perfectly fine. The design itself is kind of cool, where it has these almost, when you have the Rotuka spinners on the ends, it almost looks kind of like a helicopter, like it's going to be propeller based and it'll fly up. It doesn't, of course. However, that does look kind of cool. The arms, the forearms, totally fine. They're a little long, and I'm not super thrilled about the weird colors on the end, but there's no getting around that. The head and the neck is a really interesting design. At first, I was really worried that we weren't going to have a whole lot of friction to kind of hold it up, but they really do a good job of connecting it to the torso, so it does hold itself up really well. And of course, it's a fire-breathing dragon. It's super freaking cool. I like how that head does look. I like how you still get the effect of the eyes just with the axle in that hole. It's really good, really well illustrated. The only issue I have with it is that it is a little front heavy, so balancing it without the arms might be a bit of a chore. Outside of that though, I think it's cool. Color scheme might be a little bit out there, but I like it. I really do think this is one of my favorites. And then canonicity wise, again, it is canon. Moving on to the final three Toa Hordika, which is going to be our last Hordika combo. Take these three and remix! This is the Frostilus. This is of course our last Hordika combo, and I am so disappointed. I really do not like this model. It's just a torso with a slew of limbs just kind of shoved on it, and the limbs don't really look that great to me. The only two limbs which have any not leg-based builds are these two limbs kind of toward the top, toward the head, and they're really stiff. The way they're connected, the way these specific limbs are connected, is super awkward, and you have a difficult time posing anything with them. It just doesn't work in my opinion. I don't like all of these different limbs that just seem kind of slapped on. It's like, this may be a little preemptive, but stick with me here. It's the Gardas of 2005. It is limbs slapped on to a torso that is just torsos slapped onto each other, or at least hip pieces slapped on, and you've got Rotuka spinners kind of coming out of the shoulders. That's the one thing I like about it. I do like the shoulder design. That's kind of cool. Other than that, it's a very basic build that I think doesn't look great, and I definitely don't like those two arms below the shoulders. Additionally, we had another error with the instructions. The headpiece was freaking Wenua's in blue. You tell me how that happens. Overall, super disappointed. Not how I wanted to really end the Hordika combos, but there it is. I don't recommend building it. And canon-wise, this shouldn't come as a surprise. It's canon. Okay, let's move on to the Visorak, the main foes of 2005. Starting, of course, with the two Visorak builds. Take these two and remix! So this is what's called a Gate Guardian. And I actually kind of like this. First of all, I like this leg design, specifically the feet. I think that is very creative, it's very clever. I like how it's executed. Color scheme-wise, overall, I also really like that. I think that's a reasonable color scheme. You got your black, you got orange, you got red and orange already. A fairly good color scheme in my opinion. The function is of course the pincing function, and that works just fine. You have more pincers because there are two Visorak combining here. And of course the Rotuka on the side. Now the area where I don't like this is when you turn it around. See, for years I've only seen this Visorak combo from this front angle, but if you turn it around it paints a different picture. I don't really like how this looks. It's very bright. It's very, I don't know, unclean. It doesn't look that great to me. Additionally, with the Rotuka, good luck using them because they're on a sideward facing angle. They're going to fall off. So you have to be careful if you intend to keep them on there. And as far as using them, well, the Visorak combo is going to have to just point up. That's the whole point of a Rotuka. Overall, reasonable model. It's got its ups and downs. I like it. I think it's an interesting appearance. We haven't seen a whole lot of creatures that look like this. And canon-wise, it is, of course, canon. Next up, we're going to take these two Visorak. Surprisingly, this is a two Visorak combo. And remix! Here we go, the Kogorok. That's right, this is supposedly a larger than average Visorak breed, and it definitely is. It really does feel like a two Visorak combo that somehow manages to make it seem more than just that. It feels like it's three, but it really isn't. So we've seen a bunch of different iterations of this. I think this is one of three total Kogorok that we know of. There's this one, there's the small one from Tower of Toa, the system set, and then there's one other from, I think, Battle of Metronui, the other system set. So this is one of them. This is the first one that we're familiar with, and I like it. It's a large Visorak. It's very difficult to mess that up. I like the color scheme, though I feel like some of the layering is a little peculiar, especially in the limbs. But I like these front limbs, speaking of which. I do a lot. I think that's a really cool shaping. I like how that kind of comes across. Additionally, I like the mandibles in the front under the pincers. That's kind of a cool effect. It's very spider-like. So that's really neat to see. Functionality-wise, you do have the pincers and the Rotuka spinner. So it's a very Visorak-esque model. Overall, I like it. It was hard to go wrong with this. Not a surprise. And canon-wise, obviously, it's canon. Okay, let's round this out with the last of the two Visorak combination models with these two Visorak and remix. So this is, again, my favorite of the Visorak combos. I swear to you, it's not because of Keelorak's involvement, even though my favorite color is green. This is called a Shoot Lurker, and it's really cool. I love the stature of it. The way that the torsos are used is very creative. I like how it has that kind of almost centaur appearance. The legs, I think, were very clever. They're very interesting in their utilization. One issue that I would have would, of course, be the small legs being the front forward legs, and then the tall ones being the back forward legs, because then you really have to get those back ones to kind of go far out so that you can get the head to kind of prop up. However, I understand why they did this, because I want that menacing, I'm very much a large character, I'm looking down at you in a very menacing fashion. Limbs, fairly straightforward. The only major issue I think I might have would be the color scheme. There are a lot of varying different shades here and different colors. You have the lime, you have the green, you have the red, you have brown. Not really my favorite color scheme, however, I am very impressed by the build, so it's one of the more forgivable aspects of this. Functionality-wise, standard Visorak stuff, pincers, spinner. Canon-wise, it is absolutely canon, and I certainly recommend giving it a shot as far as a build is concerned. Next up, we're getting into the 3 Visorak combo models, starting with these guys. Let's remix! This absolutely bizarre thing is called the Parakreks. Apparently it's an amphibious Rahi, which is really peculiar because its name reminds me of parakeet and it's standing on 2 limbs. So overall, when I originally saw this combo, and over the years and kind of looking at it, not ever really building it, it was always one that was like, I'm not a big fan of this. It's kind of just a tall Visorak and it's kind of lanky. But building it, I actually kind of like it. You know, I've been complaining about the different colors and the different shades throughout these builds. I, for some reason, really like this. It's very tropical. When I think Parakreks, I think parakeet. So that makes me go, oh, look, it's colored kind of like a tropical bird, which I kind of enjoy, and it is. So that's neat. The torso, I was expecting not to like very much. It's kind of gappy. It has a lot of oddities to it, but I like it. Honestly, these are very small issues in the grand scheme of things, and it's kind of cool. One thing I was disappointed by would be the looseness of the joints. This isn't really an issue for it. This is just the reality of time. These joints have gotten looser, and one arm I was having a lot of trouble keeping posed. It basically acted like a normal joint up until you actually connected it. In that case, it acted like it was broken, which is super disappointing to come across. As far as functions are concerned, it doesn't have pincers, however it does have the Visorak spinner, unsurprisingly. All in all, I actually surprisingly like it. I think maybe its shape is a little boring, but outside of that, it's enjoyable. Certainly recommend giving it a shot, and canon-wise, again, it is canon. Alright, let's round out the 3 Visorak combos with the final 3 Visorak. Let's take these guys and remix! So this is what's called a Venom Flyer, and this is equal parts really good and equal parts really underwhelming. So the good aspects of it would be its shape. I really like the shape, it's very cool. Obviously a flying Visorak. I really like how the ripcords are used toward the end. It gives a lot of flair to the end tail bit, and it definitely reminds me of a lot of bird tails, especially birds of prey. I think that's really cool. The limbs, are they legs? Are they wings? I'm honestly not sure. It's cool. They're cool limbs. They're very serviceable. And overall, I think that its shape is really cool. However, there are a lot more things I don't like about it. The color scheme, really not one of my favorites. I don't think that any of these colors are really working well, at least not to me. Additionally, I don't know if those are wings or if they are legs. I really cannot tell. If they're supposed to be wings, they're really awkward looking wings. They look like they're supposed to be legs. And speaking of legs, what is this thing up in the front? It just kind of floats. It doesn't have any friction. It just kind of sits there. Is it supposed to be for posing? I honestly don't know. Are they supposed to be legs? I have no idea. Nothing connects into them. They're just there, wobbling back and forth. It's awkward. Functionality-wise, again, same old, spinner and pincers. So overall, it's kind of a neat concept. I like the idea. I'm not thrilled with the execution. Not one of my favorites. Not really going to recommend you build it. However, canon-wise, it is, of course, canon. Alright, it is time. We are going to take all 6 of the Visorak and combine them. let's remix! Behold, the Zivon. This is, in my opinion, a cruel and ugly reminder of one of the absolute undeniable facts that we face in this reality. And that is, everything is temporary and beholden to time. You see, I could go on about how this was never going to have a good color scheme, how it was never really going to have a clean-looking build without any open joints or open axles or stuff like that. There are a whole slew of things this thing was never going to be, but the thing it needed to be was stable. And at one point, it may have been. If you have fresh joints which haven't seen a whole lot of use, or haven't seen a whole lot of day, or haven't seen a whole lot of dust, or haven't seen a whole lot of water, or really haven't seen a whole lot of anything, this is probably a perfectly serviceable model. Unfortunately, all of my sets have. The keel rack I used in this has not been taken apart since 2006. I can certify this as sure as the sun in the sky. And these joints are still partially broken. They were still loose. One of the legs, before I managed to find a spare, was so loose it wasn't holding anything. It was flopping around as though it were broken. It was like a dislocated limb. It just wasn't functioning. And one of these joints still isn't. I'm only able to barely get it to balance to hold up the weight of this figure. Because at the end of the day, no matter how much we love these pieces, these sets, and these combos, they are incredibly subject to time. They will always and forever be subject to deterioration, to use, to dust, to water, to everything. And that is going to make them less usable as time goes on. Their time is finite. That will always ever be the case. That is what makes these pieces very difficult to work with as you get further down along the line. Overall, I think that this is a cool looking combo. I think the idea of it is really interesting. You have this large combination of all 6 Visorak with this awesome tail and these giant Visorak claws, and it's cool. Unfortunately, this was not a model that would ever withstand the test of time. And the reason I say it is a cruel and ugly reminder is because, for one, it is ugly to me, and 2, it's cruel because this was the last Nui combination, meaning it was the last combo BIONICLE ever saw that used all 6 sets. And unfortunately, I feel like it is a poor send-off to this idea. The idea of taking all 6 of a canister wave and mixing them together to create something awesome. Because as it stands right now, in the year of this release of this video, 2020, which is 15 years after these sets came out, unfortunately, it has not withstood the test of time. If your joints are good, I recommend giving this a shot. If they aren't, I really don't think you should spend your time and risking the joints breaking further than I have already done here. Canonically, it is, of course, canon. Alright, let's move on to the Titans. So let's start off with these two. Let's remix! So this is the Dark Hunter Sentrakh. It's awfully peculiar. I really don't know how to feel about this model. Not fully, at least. One thing I was really disappointed about was the build felt almost short. Like, it felt like it ended right before I was really gonna polish it. Like, it was too soon of an ending. However, that aside, I think the build is pretty good. The legs, I actually really enjoy. I think that's a really good design. They look pretty good. The one thing I'm not thrilled about would be the red feet. I feel like you could have swapped out the feet pieces from the torso and head and put them here, and then brought the red up into the torso a little bit more. That might have conflicted a little bit with the red eyes, I'm not sure, but I think that would have been interesting to at least try out. Torso-wise, I think it's a cool-looking torso, though there are things that are a tad perplexing, especially on the sides of the torso. It's just got stuff jutting out of it that I don't understand, specifically the blue pin axles. I don't get why they're there. Like, they don't bother me, but they're perplexing, because they don't really work toward anything. It's weird. Additionally, you have this function on top using the Voporak faceplate. It can rise up to give you a little more height for Sentrakh, or it can come down to really fill out that torso. I prefer to have it down behind the head because I think that looks better, but you have options, which is good. The limbs, totally serviceable. You have the one that has the Hordika function, and the way you launch it is very similar to Rahaga, where you take the spinner and pull it off of the ripcord instead of vice versa. The other one has this kind of basic claw function, totally fine. The ones that perplex me are the limbs on the shoulders. I don't get why they're there. They didn't really need to be. There wasn't a reason to add these on, in my opinion. They're just extra limbs with mismatching blades. I don't understand. Finally, the head. And this is the one that really perplexes me, because it's a cool looking head. It's got jaws, it's got a fairly decent design, but it doesn't have any friction. So the jaws move up and down, like normal jaws, unsurprisingly, but it just kind of flops down again. I don't really know why you have a jaw function where there isn't any friction like we've seen in past combos and in past sets. Overall, I like this combo model. I think that it's interesting, it's got a good torso design, it's got a good leg design, and I think that the head is interesting, though I just find some of the choices a bit perplexing. I would certainly recommend trying to build it, at least some point, and as far as canonicity is concerned, it is considered canon. Alright, last of the 2 Titan combos, we're gonna take these 2 and remix! This one. Gosh dang. So I've never built this before, but I've always seen it because of course it's a prominent character. This is the leader of the Dark Hunters, the Shadowed One. And gosh dang, it lives up to that reputation. We'll start off with the limbs. I think that the leg design is really good. I like this design. I think that it looks really good. It builds really well. I like the color scheme. I like the color layering. It's solid. The torso, also super interesting. I think that it's a really unique build that uses the pieces from both combos very well. It's a very geometric shape. I think that's super cool. The one thing that perplexes me is the way it's posed. You see in the back, and I didn't know this before I built it, in the back you have these 2 socket joints. And what you do is you connect his tail into both socket placements, and it kind of locks it into this triangular shape. I'm not sure why this was done, because it makes it so the set has to always be using the tail. So good luck getting him to sit on a throne like he's seen in Bionicle World. It's just confusing. I don't know why that decision was made. It didn't need to be, I don't think. But it is how it is, and it is definitely a minor issue. Moving up to the limbs, they're fairly straightforward. They're actually more complex than I had expected, given that you have actual fingers, they're claws. Now on his left arm, I like this design a lot better because you do have some articulation that has a lot of friction. You can have that thumb kind of come out and just stay wherever you place it, which is really good. On the other arm, he has his staff, which has the play function, the Hordika spinner function. I'll get to that in a sec. It has it built into the arm. Additionally, the fingers, the first 2 fingers, have no friction. So, if you want them to look like they're gripping the staff, you have to have the staff at more of an inward angle, which conflicts with our play function, being the Hordika spinner. Now, this has a very interesting way of working. You actually take part of the staff and you rip it out because it's connected to the ripcord, which, A, cool integration, B, also, is that always how it works? Like, in the story, does his staff just kind of come apart when he wants to send Hordika out? I know it's not, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of funny to think about. The issue here is that the Hordika is not locked into place. So, when you have the staff go inward, it's going to fall off. So you're never really going to have it on there unless you have it staying outward. And if you have it angled outward, then your fingers are going to fly out and not look like it's gripping the staff. It's catch-22, bit of a lose-lose. I like the appearance of it, and I really like that illusion, but it's one that you really have to fight with. Finally, the head. Gosh dang it, this is a great design. Obviously, based off of Hordika's, uses her pieces, but it's so much more than that. Instead of the ponytail from Hordika, you have a crown. Gosh dang it, I love how this looks. It is so well built, it is smartly built. I just really like this execution. The head looks so cool. I have really nothing bad to say about that aspect. Overall, this absolutely met my expectations. I really loved building this combo model. I loved spending the time I did with it, which unfortunately wasn't very much. I only got to spend about 24 hours with the model before I had to take it apart, but it's so cool. I think that it's very fitting that this is the leader of the Dark Hunters. He is an imposing character. He's an imposing design. I really like it. I don't have a whole lot of negative things to say about it, so I definitely recommend giving this a shot. Try and build it if you can. And I don't even need to bother, but yes, this guy is canon. And now, the final combo model for 2005. We're taking all 3 Titans, and let's remix! Behold, Voporak. This is such a fascinating model for so many different reasons. So Voporak obviously utilizes all 3 of the Titans, and I think does it in a really excellent way. The build is dense. It is so dense, and I'm very pleased to see that. I've criticized combos in the past, especially those using Titans, for not utilizing what that means. Those are a lot of parts to use and a lot of verticality you can utilize, and some of them don't. Voporak definitely does. He is a very bulky character. The leg design, the feet, they're just very dense. They look like they're from a figure that is big. Has a lot of weight and bulk and mass to him. Torso, it kind of peters out, but it's still there. There's still that density to it. On the subject of the arms, this is a peculiar aspect to this figure. The 2 longest arms feature 2 functions. On the one, you have a claw feature very similar to Kitongu and Rudaka, which has galley hooks on it. And on the other, you essentially just have Rudaka's function with the catcher claw. Both of these are perfectly serviceable functions. They work exactly as intended. The odd thing is, that's not where the arm ends. The arms continue into these kind of 3-fingered claws. So he has 3 jointed arms, which is fascinating to me. I don't know why, but he does. You can fold the arms up toward the shoulders to kind of just have his functions, his weapons stick out as arm extensions, so it's an option. It's just an odd building choice. The other 2 limbs are also awfully peculiar. On the one, you have his Ratuka launcher, and the way that works is, of course, like Rudaka and like Sentrakh. You pull the spinner off of the ripcord, and it'll send the Ratuka spinner launching. The other arm doesn't even have that. It doesn't end in a hand, it doesn't end in a function, it just kind of exists. You can fold it up, and you often see it folded up toward the torso. It is just kind of an awkward end. There isn't really anything to it. It just exists. Finally, the head. The head, again based off of Rudaka, is also very interesting. You have a different thing built on it. And I don't mind it. It's definitely an interesting look. It's this large, almost conal shape. It reminds me very much of Alien from, Aliens, Alien versus Predator, that kind of thing. So I like it. It reminds me a little bit of the Shadowed One. So I don't dislike it. It's a little strange, but I think it works. I can't envision it with another head. Additionally, he has a long neck, so you can raise it up, and by doing that and angling the head down a little bit, it actually ends up being a taller figure than any of the other 3 from 2005. Overall, I'm a big fan of this. I really like this combo model. I think they did a really good job with it. Some issues, of course, being the weird arm and the weird arm building choices, and his color scheme. The color scheme is definitely a little messy, but that was always going to happen. There are a lot of colors here because of the sets involved, but it's not a big issue. I still really like it. Now, I'm sure many of you are wondering, when am I going to mention the elephant in the room? And while I am still talking about the elephant in the room, however, this is one of the 4 combo models that were released in stores as retail sets. This was re-released as set number 10203 Voporak. Set was released in 2005, contains approximately 647 pieces, and retailed for about $50. So here's the deal. Voporak came in his own box, came with the 3 Titans. However, the unique thing to him is that he came with a unique instruction manual. The instruction booklet is his. So you're not going to build this from the 3 instruction manuals for Kitongu, Sentrakh, and Rudaka. You're just going to have to get this in order to build this combo, or you go onto bionicle.com to get the instructions, at least in 2005. Those are the only two ways you can do this. What that means is that this does not come with a unique piece. 2004 was the final year you had a combo set with a unique part. An optional one, still, but the last unique piece. This doesn't come with one. The only unique thing you're getting will be the box and the instruction booklet. I don't think that's worth buying it. You can just get the 3 sets and build it on your own. You don't need to get another thing. Maybe you can get a value deal out of getting this and then just having the 3 Titans, but I still don't feel like this warrants being a set. It is a combo model. Admittedly, it is a very good one, but it is still, at its core, combo first. So all in all, I really like this. I think that if it had some unique pieces, maybe it had some unique recolors, and it was its actual own standalone set that could stand on its own without having to fully rely on the 3 standard sets, I would argue it might be better than any of the other Titans 2005 saw. It is an imposing build. It is an involved build. It is a very detailed, it is a very dense build, and I like that. I think that it did a really good job of taking the 3 Titans and utilizing them in a way that the Titans did not utilize themselves. It's a cool looking figure. I really enjoy it. But again, at the end of the day, it is still a combo model. It is not its own individual set. It was released so that it could market the other 3 and that you would buy it, presumably again, but it's still a combo. And it still has things that you can tell are combo-ish. A little bit of a messier color scheme. The weird arms. They're trying to use as many parts as possible. And then the weird arm that it has, it doesn't have anything on the end, like it's trying to be Hukimari. What I will say, though, is that this is definitely my favorite of the combo models, which was a great surprise to me. I thought it was going to be Cardaz, because he's large and imposing with the big wings and his size. But no, I think this is better built. I think this is going to stand the test of time better, and I like it. I think that it's a cooler looking model to me, personally. And I would definitely encourage you, if you don't have it separately, give it a shot. Try building it, see what you think. And of course, not a surprise to anyone, this is canon. Normally, this is where I would end the video. You see this and you're like, alright, well, it's over. This is a cool premiere. Thanks. Bye. See you next month. But hold on. Wait just a sec. We still have one more thing to talk about. The year of 2005 saw the debut of 4 system Bionicle sets for the first time. And those also all had alternate builds. Not combos, but alternates. I am sorry to say I won't be building them. The unfortunate reality is that while they exist, they don't have instructions. There are fan instructions for, at the time of this recording, one of the models, but then it would only be that one, and I wouldn't be reviewing the other 3. So, I apologize in advance, but I won't be going over the physical in-hand models. What I will do to try and make up for that is I'll show you the pictures of them. These are official photos, and I'll give you what I think based on what I can see. I know this isn't really what anyone would want. It's kind of an appeasement, but I don't want to just kind of do it halfway. I don't want to just do one and not do the others. I feel like that's unfair. It's cheap. So at least I can go over all of them on equal footing. And maybe, you know what, I'll even say, maybe in the future I'll go over them if they have instructions. But right now, this is the best I'm going to do. Please understand. Let's go ahead and get started. First of all, the Visorak Battle Ram. This takes the Battle Ram and turns it into a gate thing. It's very reminiscent of, I'm going to say Battle for Metronui. I cannot remember if it's of or for or from, or you get my point. It's got a gate, and it has what looks to be a Kagurok, which obviously is just a repurposed battle ram. I like it. It's small, it's quaint, it very well repurposes all of the pieces involved, and I think that the catapult looks like a really cool function. I think that'd work very well. Overall, I like the utilization of pieces. It's a very downscaled gate versus creature scenario. I like it. I think they did a good job with it. Next will be Tower of Toa. We're going to go and take that and turn it into another gate. Now this is a very interesting theme here. We have a lot of gates going on. I actually kind of wonder if you made all of these, could you connect it to the Battle of Metronui? That would be very interesting to see done. In this instance, again, it's very similar to the Battle of Metronui, where you have the main gate being the mask, and then you have the walls off to the side. You have a lot of defenses against oncoming forces. I think that it looks kind of cool. That whole tower catapult thing off to the right, not super thrilled with how that looks, especially with that Mata head on the lever. It's kind of awkward. I think that's very bare bones, but everything else looks kind of cool. I definitely like the walls the most. I think that's a cool looking design. We have this very blocky aesthetic around the mask, which I'm not too jazzed by. And then the mask on top of that, the Krakan, looks very awkwardly placed. It's just a Krakan with horns, and I'm not thrilled by how that looks. Again, we have another catapult, and I think that's kind of cool, but it's another catapult, so take that how you will. Overall, interesting execution, definitely not one of my favorites, and it's almost like a discount Battle of Mechnui, so I can pass. Speaking of Battle of Mechnui, we're going to go ahead and take that and turn it into Tower of Toa. That's right, we've gone in the complete opposite direction. We've taken a gate, a battle at a wall, and we've turned it into a tower. And I'm not a big fan of it, because you get two towers, and I don't understand why. So what it's done is it's taken the Kagurok, and it's remixed it into this almost a lizard-like Rahi, which is kind of neat. I don't dislike it. It looks very interesting, and looks almost like it could be another combo, an alternate model for a Visorak. However, everything else just feels very downgraded. It's not as cohesive. You have this one spindly, almost watchtower, which looks very repetitious, and I'm not super thrilled by. And then you have what looks to be just a bunch of stuff jammed onto the mask. And I'm not really interested in seeing that. It just looks like it's trying to make the shape of the How just keep going up in this large tower. And it just doesn't look like it was done quite as well as Tower of Toa. I'm not big on this. You have a Ratuka launcher and an outpost, and you have another catapult. Nothing very interesting. I don't really like it. The highlight is the Visorak thing, and even then, it's not enough to carry all this, so I personally wouldn't build it. Finally, what I proclaimed to be the worst of the 2005 system sets, the Visorak's Gate. We're going to take it and turn it into, I guess, another Visorak's Gate. Honestly, this looks terrible. Still, I don't like this. There's nothing about this that to me looks good. It's awkward, it's blocky, it's using those large rock pieces in a very uninteresting way, it's a very uneven build, you have more catapults, you have the Visorak gate face thing as another freaking catapult, and then you have that thing off in the center, like above the Visorak catapult. What is that? Is it to hold it down? Is there another one off to the left that we're not seeing that also holds the strings together? I don't get it. Nothing about this looks cohesive. Nothing about this looks good. I didn't think there was a way to make Visorak's Gate any worse, but apparently there is. There was, and it's this. Gosh dang it. Come on. Stop trying. Visorak's Gate, you're done. You're done. We're done. Let's move on. Okay. We talked about those, and before anyone asks, those are all considered non-canon. They make no story appearances, and as such, are not going to be factored into any story-related conversations. So, just to put that out there. And that's everything. That has been 2005. There were a few standouts. I really like some of the Titan combos, or I think most of the Titan combos, and there were some of the canister set combos that I really enjoyed. Some of the Visorak ones, using the three of them, one of the three Hordika combos, and a handful of the two Hordika and Visorak combos as well. I liked one of the small set combos. But overall, this was kind of an ugly year. I wasn't really thrilled by it. The Hordika combos felt like very interesting creatures, but the Visorak felt like I was just building a bunch of Visorak. Like they were all just different Visorak. Like Gremlins 2. Well, this is a gremlin that's super smart. This is a gremlin that's a spider. This is a Visorak that flies. This is a Visorak on 2 legs. This is a Visorak that sits and shoots. And this is one that doesn't have any arms. It's just Visorak variants, which to some people is kind of cool. But it's very emblematic of the theme of the year really took over the creativity of combinations. See, in 2001, 2003, 2000, even 4, you had a lot of combos and alternates that felt like they were utilizing the pieces in a new and interesting way to make a new and interesting creature that you didn't have before. In this, again, I still just felt like I was building different Visorak. just another Visorak that had some different gimmick to it. And even some of the Hordika combos felt that way, because most of them used the Hordika head. They just felt like it to a different extent, because at the end of the day, we still got Hordika combos that weren't just humanoids. We had this almost dragon-looking Hordika combo. We had one with all these different limbs. We had one that was a giant spider. Maybe it was improperly built in the instructions, but it was still not a human. And of course, the ice vermin is appropriately named. It is vermin that I would feel is appropriately placed in ice in the Antarctic, so no one will find it. Overall, this was not one of my favorite years for combos and alternates. I just feel like there was a lot of stuff thrown at you. Gosh, there were so many models with so many redundancies, and let me tell you, the only reason I'm stressing this is because it was a lot of friggin' work. But I don't feel like it amounted to the just unbridled creativity we have seen up to this point. This drive to give you new and interesting creatures and characters to help fill the world that feels so unique and worth the time to build. I just don't feel like I got to see that this year, and it's very disappointing. I'm sure I'm not the only one that feels that way, and I'm sure other people feel differently. I know that there are going to be people who love this year, and that's totally fine. I'm very glad. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people. This is not one of my favorite years, and this process of taking apart and rebuilding all these sets because they're involved in so many different models was exhausting. It was so exhausting. I knew I wasn't going to look forward to this, and I was right. I did not enjoy this year's process. But it's over! We're done! We're here, we're at the end, and hopefully you enjoyed this video and you got something interesting out of it. Thank you all so very much for watching. Join me next month when I go over 2006. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope to see you there, and have a great day. Farewell.